Welcome to We Learn Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 4, Emergence of New Classes. Topics which we are going to cover in this session are Introduction, Factors lending to the emergence of new classes, Old classes in new MILIEU, the new classes. Coming towards the introduction, the Indian society witnessed the emergence of many new classes after the advent of British rules. There emerged classes of Zamindar, Tenants, Peasant-Proprietors, money lenders, agricultural labor, etc. in the rural areas. In the urban areas, the classes are of capitalists, workers, small traders, etc. appeared. The workers built All India Trade Union Congress. The peasant-proprietary talent and agricultural laborer built All India Kisan Sabha. The pre-British Indian was marked with the absence of an all India economy and an unified administrative system. The enlightened section of these classes started understanding of true nature of British rule. They could see the clash of interest of the Indian people with British interest in India. The emergence of new classes did not follow any uniform pattern everywhere and among all the communities. The professional and the educated middle class also came into being in the area much ahead of the other areas. It was because of the introduction of a new administrative apparatus and the new educational system. Banyas and Parsis were first to be drawn to the commerce and banking, so they blossomed into capitalist class. The Brahmins were first to take the modern education introduction by the British. Bengal had a very large Muslim population. The altering of the economic agreement, like introduction of new land relation, opening of Indian society for commercial exploitation by the capitalist world, introduction of a new administrative arrangement, a modern education system, and the establishment of modern industries were the factors largely responsible for the emergence of the new social classes. The class of tenant and subtenants were born with the creation of the right to lease land. The right to private property in land and the right to employ labor to work on land created classes like absentee landlords and agricultural labor. There also emerged a class of money lenders. Under the British rule of production, both industrial and agricultural become for the most important for the market. The new social, economic and state system introduced by the British needed a class of Indians having acquired modern education in professional fields like law, technology, machines, economics, etc. The introduction of modern education system all over the country was done by this objective in mind. Coming towards the next topic, that is old classes in the new MILIEU. India had undergone a transformation on the capitalist line under the British rule, but this transformation was not as thorough as it was in France, England, or the United States of America. The classes of village artisans and urban handicraftsmen were such classes. The urban handicraftsmen who had earlier worked for nobles, princes, or healthy merchants who started selling their products in the market. All the vital powers of these states were surrendered to the paramount British power. Though residents, the British started interfering in the internal affairs of these states. The condition of the general people was miserable in these princely states. Democratic liberties were almost non-existent. The land revenue and taxation were very high, and most of the revenue raised was spent on luxurious lifestyles of the princes. Next is the new classes. New classes are Zamindars. The payment settlement of 1793 made by Lord Cornwallis in Bengal and Bihar created the classes of Zamindars and aristocratic classes at the top of the agrarian hierarchy. As the Zamindars owed their existence to the British rule, they became very loyal supporters. In return, the British gave them representation in various constitutional schemes introduced by the government and the other favors. These Zamindars were the agent of British in exchange of their commitment to pay a fixed amount of revenue to the government. They got the right of collecting as much rent as they could from the defenseless, economically emancipated tenants. The Zamindars formed their political organizations, that is, the British Indian Association. It was a conservative body. Next are the tenants. The permanent settlement did not give birth to the classes of Zamindars alone. It also created a class of tenants in the countryside. They were subjected to extract high rent. The Zamindari agreement resulted in general imprisonment in the tenant. The tenants also come under the influence of the Kisan Sabha started by N.G. Ranga and Swami Sahajanand. Next is Peasant-Proprietors. In South and South Central India, where the Tawatri settlement was introduced, there emerged a class of peasant-proprietors. The general condition of this class worsened mainly because of excessive land tax, fragmentation of the size of holding, and heavy indebtedness. The peasant proprietors became politically conscious much ahead of the tenants. The peasant proprietors did not have difficulty in organizing their enemy, that is, the British rule. Next is the Kisan movement, main landmarks. The formation of the UP Kisan Sabha in February 1918 marked a watershed development in the history of peasant movement in India. Their organizations emerged under their own leadership for the achievement of their programs and objectives. It does not mean that before 1918 there were no peasant movement. Indigo was used as a dye for the cotton clothes manufactured by factories in England. Almost all the indigo planters were Europeans, and they forced the peasants to grow indigo on the best part of their land. The indigo revolt's involvement of all the indigo growing districts of Bengal by 1860. The peasants joined together to raise funds to fight court cases filed against them. Between 1870 to 1880, large parts of East Bengal witnessed agrarian unrest caused by the efforts of Zamindar to enhance rent beyond legal limits. In May 1873, an agrarian league was formed in Pabna district to resist demand of the Zamindars. The tenants reused power of enhanced rent and raised funds to challenge the Zamindars in the court. Peasant movement in the 20th century were distinct from those in 19th century. Three major movements emerged in the second and the third decade of the 20th century. The Kisan Sabha and Eka movement in the Awadh area of UP and Mapila rebellion in the Malabar region and the famous Barbodi Satyagrah in Gujarat. The Indian National Congress shied away from raising the issue concerning the peasant from particularly the tenants living in the Zamindari area. According to Bipin Chandra, Congress did not want to weaken Indian nationalism by dividing our people in the political group based on different economic interests. In 1930, the 11 points submitted to the British government by Gandhi did not include the main demand of the peasant like reduction of rent and redemption of agricultural indebtedness. Next is the rise of modern Indian Intelligentsia. In the early decades of the 19th century, the small number of educated persons were there. The spread of modern education was largely the work of British government. Around the middle of the 19th century, there emerged a large section of intelligentsia. They assimilated Western democratic culture and understood the complex problem of incipient Indian nationhood. Leaders like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Dadabhai Nehruji, M.G. Randre, and others led the moderate phase of the nationalist movement. In the militant phase of trio of Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and B.C. Pal, together with Aurobindo Ghosh, were main leaders. When the freedom struggle acquired a mass base after a non-cooperation movement in 1990, its leadership passed into the hands of leaders such as M.K. Gandhi, Motilal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, J.K. Nehru, C.S. Bose, and intellectuals with socialist and communist leanings. The modern education system helped to understand the nature of conflict in a better way. This class, which includes scientists, poets, historians, economists, and philosophers, had a dream of a modern, strong, prosperous, and united India. The middle class, which comprised of lawyers, doctors, professors, journalists, government employees, students, and other, was the product of modern education system. In the second half of the 19th century, their number swelled because the expansion in the number of schools and colleges. Next is the capitalist class. The emergence of the capitalist class was the result of the opening of Indian economy to the world capitalist system, the process of industrialization and the growth of the banking sector. The accumulation of sufficient saving in the hands of Indian merchant, princes, Zamindars and moneylenders provide the basis for the emergence of the Indian industry. The industrialization of the country started with the setting up of cotton textiles, jute and coal mining industries in 1850s. All other industrialized countries had protected their infant industry by imposing heavy custom duties on import from the foreign countries. A policy of free trade was imposed upon India to suit the interest of British industry because India was not a free country. The rising capitalist class had become quite conscious by 1905. This class supported the Swadeshi and boycott movement launched by the Indian National Congress because the objective of the movement suited their class interest. According to Bipin Chandra, it is true that the Congress accepted from the capitalists, but in spite of this, the Congress maintained its independent position on policy and ideology matters. The capitalist class was aware of contradiction, the interest of colonial government and their own independent growth. They realized that a national government would provide better atmosphere for their growth. The FICCI was recognized as national guardian of trade, commerce and industry. During 1930, the Congress was getting increasingly radical under the leadership of Nehru and the socialists. Next is the rise of the modern working class. The modern working class made its appearance in India in the second half of the 19th century with the growth of modern industries, railway, post and telegraph network, plantation and mining. The artisans were forced to join the rank of workers because their product could not compete with the cheaper machine-made goods from England. The labor movement started in an organized way only after the end of the First World War. Before the war, there were strikes and agitations, mostly sporadic, spontaneous, lacking long-term objective, devoid of class consciousness and based on local and immediate grievance. All India Trade Union Congress was born in 1920 mainly due to the efforts of leaders like N.M. Joshi, Lala Lajpat Roy and Joseph Baptista. Its stated objective was to coordinate activities of all organizations in all the provinces of India to further the interest of Indian labor in economic, social and political matters. In the second half of 1920, there was a consolidation of left ideological force in the country. In 1928, the left wing, including the communists, succeeded in acquiring dominant position inside the All Indian Trade Union Corporation. The old leadership, represented by the Joshi group, became in minority. This led to the split in AITUC. When the Second World War started in 1939, the working class of Bombay was almost the first in the world to hold anti-war strike in which 9,000 workers participated. With the Nazi attack on the Soviet Union in 1941, the communists argued that the character of the war had changed from imperialist war to people's war. That's all for the session. Now the questions which are based on this session are: what was the attitude of the working class towards the Simon Commission? And number 2, what was the attitude of provincial government led by the Congress towards the working class? So that's all for this session. Thank you. Happy learning. we learning.